Casper, I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's regularly scheduled meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And for those that are able and joining us in person, could you please join me by standing and citing the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification purposes, in terms of those in attendance, Claudia Riley is not able to join us today because of a work commitment. Dan Larson is joining us, but he's joining us remotely because he is on an adventure of a lifetime. So, Mr. Larson, thank you for taking time out of your wonderful trip to continue to participate in the Board of Selectmen meeting. So, thank you so much. And
thank you. Thanks.
Due to an illness, Mr. Tierney is not able to join us. So, our last minute issue. So we obviously use our thoughts to recover quickly, and Donna will be representing the town in terms of items that Andy might have normally covered, and so just for clarification purposes, that does move us to section or item number 3 on our agenda, which is additions and changes. Donna, do you have anything from the town's perspective?
Do not.
Okay. From the board?
None.
No.
Mr. Larson, anything additions or changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
Moves us to section 4, which is public comment. This section of the agenda is reserved for persons in attendance who wish to briefly address the Board of Selectmen. The board requests that a person's comments be limited to a single period lasting 3 minutes or less. While the board respects the right of the public to provide comment, this time is not intended for open discussion or a board response. Residents who wish to request a dialogue, you're welcome to do that. Just make arrangements through Andy, the town manager's office, or you can contact me directly, and obviously also I'm sure the members of the balance of the board would also welcome any contact with them directly as well. If you are remote, and those that are joining us remotely, thank you for doing that. Please type comment in the chat box, and Donna will recognize you for your opportunity to add public comment. And as always, there's a public comment section at the beginning of our meeting and also at the end if you're joining us for the first time. Donna, do we have any folks remotely who wish to offer public comment?
Nothing at this time.
Folks in attendance here.
John Minari.
Yes, sir. You'd like to, I'm sorry, would you like to make a public comment?
Not at this point.
Okay, great, thank you.
I will.
Okay, great, well, thank you. All right, so that moves us to section 5.
Pete.
Oh, Dan, yeah.
Peter.
Yes, sir.
He may want to make a comment when we're talking about the Peters house. So you
I'm
may
sorry, what about?
ask if he may want to comment when you start talking about budgeting Peters house,
Okay.
because he has been so heavily involved in the construction there.
I got it. So, yeah, so you are welcome to add your public comment at the appropriate section of the agenda, just so it's germane to the dialogue. You're welcome to do that. Thank you, Dan. Okay, that moves us to good to know and special recognition. So item 5A, which is Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation. So I'll turn it first over to Tiffany to read that, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I just want to note for the record that this was written by my partner, Claudia Riley. It was written by her.
Okay.
And I'm happy to read it on her behalf.
Thank you.
The Town of Hebron Proclamation recognizes Indigenous Peoples Day. Whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, and whereas the United States endorsed the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People on December 16, 2010, and whereas a growing number of cities and towns in the United States have recognized the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day as an opportunity to celebrate Indigenous heritage and resiliency. And whereas the town of Hebron recognizes it was founded and built upon lands first inhabited by Indigenous peoples of this region and acknowledges and honors these members of the community. Long before the state of Connecticut was created and towns like Hebron were founded, diverse Indigenous communities called this land home. They raised families, worked the soil, traded goods with others, and established cultures rich in political, artistic, spiritual, and environmental legacies that continue today. And whereas despite war, enslavement, and prejudice, Native people have remained active agents in their own and state history. The state recognized sovereign nations in Connecticut are the Golden Hill Pagosset, Mashantucket Pequot, Mohegan, Pawcatuck Eastern Pequot, and Schaghticoke tribes, with the Mashantucket Pequot and Mohegan having federal recognition as well. And whereas the town of Hebron values the many contributions made to our community through Indigenous people's knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, arts, and the deep cultural contribution that has shaped the character of the town. Now, therefore, the Hebron Board of Selectmen do hereby proclaim the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples' Day, signed Peter Casper, Chairman, and Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager.
Thank you very much for reading that. I appreciate that very much. All right, that moves us to section 6 on the town manager, which is the town manager's report. Donna?
Just a few things that, as you know, we are working very hard on ARPA. And we will report on those a little bit later. A few big construction projects are in the works, 2 bridges, the Grayville Road Bridge and the library, the Pendleton Drive Bridge, and then the intersection project at 85 and 66 continue. Our security project is going to start up first week in November. The first priority will be Veterans Park and then the library. And we're working on CIP. Those are due from the departments in early November. And then a couple important meetings are coming up for the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education. The budget kickoff meeting next Tuesday at the library at 7, and then November 13th, the Charter Revision Commission meeting. That is all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Moves us to section 7 on our agenda, which is old business. And 7A would be American Rescue Plan State and Local Recovery Funds update.
So I think we'll have Craig go first. Sure. He'll give us an update on his projects with you.
Yeah, so the other night, Tuesday, the lights for Veterans Field did get approved through planning and zoning. It is being put together right now, all the documents, so that should be out very soon. In conjunction with that, the skate park bid documents are being put together, so it probably will go out at about the same time. Same with the field improvements. So all 3 of those will be contracted in hand by December. So that's great progress on those projects, at least. A couple other projects that I'm also helping with, the cemetery project. And Donna need to discuss about that a little bit more, but we did get some quotes for tree removal so that they can continue the restoration of gravestones at both the old cemetery on Wall Street and Burroughs Hill, Jones Street as well. Gilead Hill Playscape, they should be breaking ground within, what, Matt, 2-3 weeks, end of October. So that's right there as well. So we've been working hard on getting all these put together, and again, contracts in hand, break ground. And then tonight looks like we'll hopefully award the bid for pickleball too, which would be great. You want me to talk about?
Why don't you go over those numbers?
So, okay. So you'll see that for pickleball, the quote that I recommended was just over $115,000. So we're going to be requesting some additional funding tonight for the pickleball courts. The quote was pretty much right on. We just ran into some issues. We anticipated a company putting in a lower bid. We did not receive a bid from them. So that was unfortunate. So the original funding that we received would have covered construction and engineering with that. One of the problems with the engineering costs as well is we've looked at 3 different sites. So we've had 3 different plans, plus we've also had to make alterations to another plan based on recommendations and requests from planning and zoning. We've also had to put in a plan for future amenities for that park, including surveying of the full park and the parking lot. So engineering costs were much more than, again, we anticipated because of the changes from the different sites, as well as some requests from planning and zoning as well.
Did you go back to that company that had the lower bid and find out why they didn't
I
want to proceed?
didn't, I haven't talked to them.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure why.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. They are a smaller company, so maybe they just have enough work or too many. They did tell me they were. I talked to them when we went out, so, yeah, not really sure why, unfortunately.
So so I understand the additional money is, how much of it was engineering costs?
So what we'd be asking for is to pretty much cover the engineering costs that have already been paid.
So it's all engineering
Yeah,
costs?
exactly.
Okay.
What were the 3 sites that were looked at?
So we looked at Veterans Park. Originally, when we weren't sure what we were doing with the skate park and pickleball, this was a while ago. We looked there, we looked at St. Peter's Field, behind the parking lot, there's a little bit of an open field, a lot closer to the school, obviously, and then the third site is the current site, which we've had made 2 different plans for the pickleball courts on the current site, as well as a full site future amenities plan.
Why was that done?
That was through planning and zoning. They wanted to see what else could potentially fit in that park if we were going to take away the baseball field.
Okay.
Dan, do you have questions? Because I don't want to forget. I keep.
No, I just, I read things over. Just, $32,000 is, a tremendous amount of money. I was thinking it was more for construction as well. At what point I was going to be very upset. Not that I'm real happy, trying to find another 32. But if it comes out of the dog park, so in other words, it's coming out of allocated money for planning or for Parks and Rec, I'm less irritated. I'll put it that way.
And that's
Yeah,
what we'd
Jeff.
be requesting from. We'd be requesting
Okay.
from the additional funds that we were given for the dog park. I think the original funding was 40 or 50,000. 50,000 we asked for additional. So this 35 would be coming at that additional, because with this possible new site at Kinney Road, we're saving $30,000 on tree removal and another, 13 or so just on a fence alone. So that additional money that was allocated is still in the Parks and Rec realm, just different projects.
Gotcha.
Are you confident the dog park is going to fit within the 56,700 you've allocated?
As far as I can come up with, yes. And there are stuff that we can save money off, like some furnishing, like picnic tables.
Okay.
We can do a lot of the work ourselves on the
Okay.
dog park as well. With surfacing parking lot. So I feel pretty comfortable with that number. I mean, the biggest expense is going to be the fence for that. We know how these things go. Sometimes there's other issues, but I think there's enough in here where as long as we get the fence in the parking lot, the other stuff we can figure out too, even if for some reason it's, a little less. But I just want you guys to know, like, this isn't fun for me coming to Ashland. This isn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
As I say,
it seems like every time I'm here, I'm asking for something else. I don't want to be doing this, but I also want these projects to be completed. We've spent a lot of time and effort, not just myself. Matt's been helping me along the way. Donna's been helping me. Everyone in town's been helping. We're trying to get this done. And like I said, I don't want to ask for it, but I think this is the best option, especially get these pickleball courts done correctly and by the right company. And then I think the dog park, as long as we can get a fence in the ground, pretty confident the other stuff we can take care of.
well, as I say, some money is definitely barking up the right tree. I'm sorry. I had to do that.
You're in a good mood because you're on vacation, so you're extra fun. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. We, even though there's more to discuss associated with ARPA, I think this would be a good point to have the motion read specific to this, so it stays fresh, and then we'll continue if the board's okay with that.
Yeah.
Just thought we could take it from this motion since we're talking about it, so we don't I'm sensing that we'll have other items that are gonna take time. So I'm gonna move forward with proposing motion number 1, which is to move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen authorize the transfer of ARPA funds in the amount of 35,000 from the dog park project to the pickleball courts project. And open it up for any additional discussion.
I mean, the only comment I have is just, not that we're ever going to have several $1 million of ARPA funds to mess around with in the near future, hopefully. But, you know, it's just something, whereas the Board of Selectmen, maybe we need to put a little more effort before we go out and do engineering of different sites, is really think about where we want the site to be and think about all the pros and cons before we go engineering 3 different sites. I mean, and again, that's not on you, that's on us,
Yeah,
you know,
You're right.
you know, flip-flopping on these kinds of decisions after things have already been done and gotten underway gets expensive.
It's a struggle for our department to find land
Yeah.
to build,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of properties,
Keith?
but it's for these
Yep.
things, yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
If I may, this is one of the advantages, and sadly, there's a few areas, and I'm not there right now to get into them, but there's a few areas that, whether for the economic abilities or what have you, we've never really gotten into, and it's not just, I mean, this is going back boards for years on really a long-term town strategic plan. The closest thing that we did was with the charrette, and that was actually even prior to Andy coming on board as the town manager. You know, we've just never been able to actually really sit down and come up with that long-term vision for the town. So we have that on that aspect. Other things, and again, as we start getting to CIP items, and this is really not even for tonight, but like vehicle replacement. These are items that, you know, every year we have vehicles that need to be replaced, but we have no real long-term vehicle replacement funding strategy. We know what vehicles pretty much need to be replaced when. That's a well-known fact. I mean, you know, every department's got their vehicle inventory and when it should be replaced. But you know, we've never had the luxury of having a few dollars that we could set aside as seed money to try to get that fund initiated. And so it's, you know, I don't want to point fingers at anybody. I don't know how to make that happen. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that. Any additional discussion on the proposed motion? All right, so we'll move forward to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or nay if you oppose, or if you wish to abstain on the motion that's read. Dan?
Dan Larson, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye.
Tiffany Tealy, aye.
Peter Casper, aye. Proposed motion number 1 on item 7A passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. I think, should we move to the Peter's House discussion
Yeah.
as now? Because there might be other items as well, but.
I think so, yeah.
So let's have Matt go and then Ms. Menard, I know you want to jump in. So I haven't forgotten about you. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, yeah, it's, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to put this into the context of the big picture. You know, ARPA spending, you know, Craig and I and Donna, you know, we're working through this, you know, the realities of competitive bidding process. And, you know, to get the estimates that we receive are, you know, based on limited factors and projects evolve. So we have some big projects that are going to be going out to bid, and ultimately, for example, the athletic field lighting. I mean, we're not going to know for certain what that project's going to come in at. Committed, it's like a tough position. You've already, you know, committed this amount of effort and, you know, costs, quite frankly, you know, related to engineering and whatnot, to a project where you kind of have to see, it through at this point. So, you know, we are beholden to, you know, that aspect of the game, and I think, you know, the contractors, quite frankly, they know that, you know, there's every town out there is trying to spend down all this money, you know, so you know, we're seeing some very healthy numbers coming back at us.
It's not even now, really. I mean, there's been special municipal pricing forever. And I mean, contractors have a different pricing schedule.
So,
no question.
You know, Craig's crew, you know, only has so many legs
Right.
to fill in the blanks. And even like, I think about some of our projects, and, you know, we're kind of kicking the can on some landscaping, the aspects that really bring the project together as a whole. So it's like, I'm trying to find little ways to make those things work. But nonetheless, I provided you know, you requested a kind of a breakdown of what we know to be some of the spending that's been committed to Peter's House over the years. Certainly, it's been a significant investment. It's been a long haul. And I believe that it ultimately will become an asset the community is going to be proud of. And it will be my greatest dream come true is to get it done, so to speak. We know that when you're dealing with an old house, there will invariably be maintenance required over the long term. But to get it in a condition where we feel like we can maximize its use for the originally intended purposes. I've kind of outlined what we expect to be the costs associated with getting it there, with the help of John Menard and, you know, your commitment to the parking improvements and whatnot. That breakdown is what we, you know, hope to make available. Now, that again, you know, has to be taken into the context of we have available and what we're trying to achieve across the other items. So if you have any specific questions, I hope, you know, the memo helped to break it down a bit, but it's kind of like a, you know, Keith, you alluded a few times, or Commissioner Pettit, alluded to a few times, we don't want to leave a penny on the table. So let's not do that. This is one way that we can be pretty certain that we won't do that.
Okay, but I'm sorry, I'm starting out.
No,
Maybe I should ask anyone else has a question.
No,
Jump in.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess, well, my question is that, around, I mean, we've been working as a town on Peter's House for as long as I can remember. And if you look at the money that we put in hindsight, I don't know, we would have gone down this road. And not for lack of it being a good idea, but clearly we could have maybe thought, you know, if we had hindsight, differently about how to highlight this family and the history and celebrate them and all the things. So I personally am concerned that it's a project that keeps asking for money for years and years and years because of all the things that get uncovered. And you have outlined, there's a number of things here that, I mean, would we have, how do we document all this in terms of all these different additional projects in time? Because these are guesstimates, right? Is it all volunteer? A lot of it's volunteer work. So how do we?
Have it.
And it has been, right, which is wonderful. I mean, people have dedicated clearly a tremendous amount of time and energy and love for this project, but it is a challenge. I think as the public looks at it, there's a constant, hey, we need more money. And that's not a criticism. There's been wonderful volunteers who clearly dedicated years to this project. Please don't hear that as a criticism. It's just, I'm concerned that, I mean, we've addressed this partially in ARPA funds. ARPA funds clearly is not the only mechanism in which to fund this. We have CIP. I'm interested in the public's input, frankly, on more money being allocated to this project, and we have to finish it. But maybe the public needs to weigh in on how much more money goes to a project like this because it has been, you know, inexpensive and all that over a long period of time. So, of these things that are outlined, how much of this is volunteer work?
I don't believe that the intention is that any of that's.
Okay, so how do we get how do we get all the estimates and the documentation and all that we need in the next 30 days?
So if I could just maybe just back up a little bit, you know, you mentioned whether or not community might have rethought the commitment. I think one of the things the community might have rethought was that way to execute that commitment.
Yes, not the commitment, we're already beyond, yes, you're right. But then it's how much more money do we want to dedicate towards this, or at least have a better understanding of why? And is it the end, or is it just a continuation of?
Right, well, my understanding, and you know, John could probably fill in the blanks here, but my understanding is that what's been outlined and the request that's been made would complete the project in terms of making it functional and not leaving any of the, you know, not leaving anything kind of unfinished from a, I don't want to say cosmetic, but from a, you know, a functional standard. So, you know, that all the walls are painted, the floors are done, completed, the electricity works, the fixtures are functioning. Doors, you know, open and close, the locks function. We're not talking about embellishments. We're not talking about furnishings. You know, there are other approaches to doing things like that. This is an approach to completing the project the way we think we wish it to be complete, without the assistance of volunteers, without the assistance of grants. This is a plunge towards the finish line.
Okay.
To get this, all the rooms in a working condition. Now, there are probably elements that might be desired that are not going to be included in there. For example, a second floor bath. In a conversation about that, I believe it would be useful, but it's not a necessity. So, you know, it'll be a structurally sound building. It is heated and cooled appropriately, has an electrical system that's functional and appropriate, has a bathroom that functions. And, you know, our expectation is that it will continue to do so. Just like a residence, I would compare it more to a residence, you know, than a municipal building. Absolutely requires maintenance. Right now, you know, you'll see some weeds growing out the gutters. You know, we need to tend to those aspects of the project, but they're not covered in, you know, what we believe to be, you know, a completed house.
What is the second floor going to be used for?
Well, I mean, I think it's based on, you know, what opportunities, you know, lend themselves. I mean, we will, so my intention, or the idea, I believe, is supposed to be for an educational space and for a functioning space, or function space. So if somebody wanted to hold a small event, there is a second floor ballroom, small, but I mean, the idea is perhaps live music could be played, perhaps, you know, food could be served, a shower, a tea party, you know, an educational opportunity where there's a presentation. You know, there's a lot of folks, you know, we know that are incredibly passionate about historic preservation and telling those stories and keeping them alive and well. We see this as a place where that could be conducted. I'm sure there are more ideas, but without, you know, we're not sending anybody to the second.
I'm just curious, you don't, I mean, I know you don't know.
Yeah, I'm just
exactly.
gonna.
Yeah, and thank you for coming, but I mean, I just thinking, you know, as I'm listening, I'm thinking, I think we need a second floor bathroom. But I appreciate that. So I wanted to obviously open up to the balance of the board and then make sure, and Mr. Menard, putting this list together, thank you so much. And when I read public comment, I because of your position on the Historic Properties Commission and your involvement in this project, please don't feel the pressure of time if you wanted to add some more context and all that. But before you come up, if there anything from the rest of the board, Dan, I'll start with you. I know you're very passionate about this project, so why don't you have questions or comments you want to make? Start with you.
Well, sure. And as I say, you know, there has been tremendous amount of money that has been spent on that. And I hope that John can elaborate, because he was one of the critical people involved, where we found tremendous amounts of rotted wood that had just been plywooded actually over. So there's that, but also talking about the uses for the building. As more and more people get into different types of shows, there are people that, will display clocks. So some of the things that could be done there would be, clock shows, kerosene lanterns, which for some reason I happen to have right now 40 some odd. I think I counted 42 different types and styles of kerosene lanterns that I've collected over the years. So there's those types of shows. Hopefully with the Carefree building, that will also allow other uses, other outside type shows. So there's a lot of things that could go on there, similar to like what goes on with Colonial Days at the Hebron Wood Product site, 2 weeks after the Hebron Fair. So there's lots of types of events, and there's quite a number of especially young people that are kind of taking at least a cursory interest in the way things were done, canning and some of the other types of home preserves and home making things, candles. So, there is resurgence in trying to enlighten people's knowledge on these fields. So the Peters House is a perfect venue to host those kinds of things. So there was that, and then as I say, I'm hoping John will get into also, some of the money. Now I do know that when John put that together, he had asked me as an electrician, what would it cost? Not as to do it for myself, but if I faded off into the sunset, what would real dollar cost be to finish off that second floor? So those numbers should be at least reasonably accurate. Of course, those numbers are, I'm not even sure how old now. You can ask John that. But they were accurate at the time. I was just handed. Also, there was a braided rug and chair or braiding for rugs and chairs and things was held there. They wanted to hold their classes. So there are some opportunities, even for renting out to those types of groups. So I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Oh, it's helpful, just putting it in context. I don't think anyone's against finishing this well-deserved project. It's just,
Yeah, no,
it's just how we pay for it and where we pay for it and how we communicate it. So it's not, I don't think there's any, I wouldn't think there's any question about the validity of the finishing the project, just how we do it.
no.
And sometimes you-
Historically, one of the things that Mark Stewart was very animate about when he was on the board is that no CIP funds be used for that project. And I believe by and large, that request has been met. So it's been grants, volunteer labor, has been the bulk of the money. There was a few dollars here and there out of town taxes, but the majority has not been through CIP at all. So I'm not sure if you have that number actually
They
there.
have a current amount of 37,000 that's coming out of CIP, so, in the documents, but, I don't know I don't have any idea the total amount that's
There's
come
a
out of CIP.
summary page
Does that have it
in
in there?
there, and it's up on the screen right now, but there were several years we funded it from CIP.
Oh, there it is.
And those, several of those were used for matching funds for grants. And then, all of the grants that we've received, I believe this is all of the grants we've received for that.
So CIP is over 200,000 over the years, since fiscal year 14, so. it looks
And
like a
there
couple
is
$100,000.
some money remaining that we can be.
Okay, so,
I'll hop in unless.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I mean, I guess my 1 point, 2 points. All right, maybe there's multiple points. I'll get around to the points later.
There's points being made.
There's
Points being
points.
made.
Is that there has been some feedback from the public. And I tend to agree with it, is we're expanding the scope without completing the core. And I don't want to start down that road unless we're completing the core first. So like going forward from this point, I would like us to focus on finishing the house. And then, yes, if we have money left over in ARPA, I don't want any of this money to go back to the feds. And I have no problem putting it forward on other stuff, like the barn or other expansions, landscaping, whatever you want to call it outside the house. But I really think that from a public perspective, some of the stuff that we've received back is get the house done.
Mhm.
And then at that point, if there's stuff left over, then by all means, we can start looking at other stuff, because I don't think there's anybody in town that wants ARPA funds to just not be used and evaporate. But I do think that I think we should focus on getting quotes and possible contracts for everything, but get the ones for the house signed. We'll get you money for that. And then if there's money left over, as long as you have quotes for the other stuff, we can sign that at the 12th hour and get it done. But I think the feedback that I've gotten from the public is, let's focus on getting the house done before, I literally have had people say, why are we doing a barn? What are you going to do in a barn when you don't even have you can't do anything in the house, but you can have a barn,
Mhm.
and what do I say back to that? That's a very tough conversation for somebody of my intellect to, carry on. So I don't know. That's my kind of position. So yes, I don't want to return any funds, and I want to make sure that the Peters house gets done. And I agree with you. If there's going to be use for these other peripheral things, and the townspeople will gain benefit from it, I want that for them. But I think what the feedback I'm getting from the public is get the house done first. So that's my
Okay, thank you,
cents.
Tiffany.
Yeah, so I think I would probably fall in line with Keith's thinking. I'm thinking a lot about equity in terms of how we're distributing ARPA funds. And the reality is the Peters House has been allocated $100,000 to get some important things done. But I note that there is another list of projects that have been approved by the town attorney, including a couple for the senior center. And as I look at the list, I didn't see the senior center receiving any ARPA funding. So I would
Whoa.
hesitate. I would hesitate with any additional appropriation tonight, because I think we've only got $54,000 left. And there are some smaller projects that I think we could kind of tick off the list, and then perhaps we hold back the rest of that to address some of the smaller items that are on your detailed breakout list, like the $200 projects, the $400 projects, et cetera. But I would agree with Keith that the house needs to be the priority. And I think there are some smaller $20,000 to $25,000 projects that are on that list that perhaps we could think about bumping up and address some smaller concerns. I think we've had that conversation, right? As we whittle down in terms of what we have left, are there smaller things we can kind of do with the money to just make sure we spend it all? So I guess those are a couple of concerns I have, because if there are smaller projects we can get done, I mean, now might be the time to do that rather than just taking another 50, and taking another large amount and donating it to this project when they've already received $100,000.
So let's stop there for a second. Maybe Mr. Menard, it would not be a good time for you to, because I don't want to lose your thoughts in terms of this discussion. And please don't feel rushed on time.
Respectfully,
Yeah.
if I could just
Oh,
get a little bit
yeah,
of thoughts in after the fact.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
definitely
not rushing here. I just, no, whatever. I just thought maybe Mr. Menard, you jump in here, and again, don't feel like you have 3 minutes. Take your time, whatever you want. You've obviously done a ton of work, so thank you for that.
I think you're going to have to step over
On the
there,
X,
though,
so the
yeah,
public can
people
see you.
hear you. Yeah.
So the camera.
the camera.
The reason I'm here is because Dan Larson asked me to come here and speak for him, which is fine. And I've been involved with the house for many years. Yeah. So as started out as a volunteer, and I was on the steering committee originally, which included the architect and general builders and quite a few other people from the town, building inspector. What we basically were doing demolition work at first, just stripping paneling from the walls, doing all that kind of stuff. The floor and what was the bathroom collapsed. Basically, the architect never looked at the structure. And he basically added a lot of new siding, new roof, slapped a coat of paint on rotten wood that we ended up replacing. They never looked at the sills. They never looked at the floor joists. So anyway,
Okay.
they charged 200 grand, and and part of it is due to the building inspector. They never looked at anything they did. So nobody was looking. And general builders, who were the contractor, never really said anything. They just covered everything up. We ended up replacing sills. Virtually all the sills in the main part of the house are replaced. And anyway, I worked on the house till Mike O'Leary left, and then nothing got done. The only thing I did after that was put a handicap entrance, and we really haven't done anything since. Matt has been working with Beth Ackley, an engineer, on the front porch area, and then another area of concern upstairs, the rotted beams, which have to be addressed. Those are the two big things those are the two money projects. Everything else is smaller. And I have a list here with cost estimates that I put together with a friend of mine who did a lot of work on the house also. And I wouldn't hold me to the exact amount, but they're good rough estimates on all the work that has to be done there. Which I can give you a copy right now. I can give you 2 copies. That's all I have.
It's okay. We
At this point.
have it. Is that?
You have it, okay.
So if someone else wants, no, thank you.
No, I
No.
have it right up.
Okay.
Oh, you have it
Yeah.
there. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
So that's basically around the dollar amount.
Yeah.
If you start hiring a lot of restoration contractors, your costs can be very high.
Right.
I think in the town hall, the window repair
Mm.
was $58,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
In that amount. So you have to be careful. I mean, I did a lot of work later on for $35 an hour. And help pay my taxes. So
Mm.
what I started out, I did, an awful lot of volunteer work. And then Mike would tell me we were running out of money. I'd continue working on stuff. So, and I was even buying materials, So, I've really wanted to get the thing done. I understand the financial parts of it. And we're getting, for a few years, 25,000 in CIP money, which went a long way. But I'm not going to say the whole 200,000 was wasted, because it wasn't. There's a roof and there's siding on it, but there's a lot of other work to be done. So, I'm not sure if I've been anything other to say. The barn would be an addition to the property. I understand your thoughts, but if you're doing bigger events there, it would be an asset. I'm looking at the Alex house where they have the all the sales and stuff, vegetable, so like we have in town here.
Mhm.
In
Farmers
Coventry. at the, what's the house in Copster?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nathan Hale House.
Oh,
They have a barn there that is used for their useful things there. It could be an asset that way. It's also a promotion thing for the builder, that's what their interest is, that people see it. So we're kind of giving them free advertising. It's, there's two sides to everything. That's basically all I have to say, but, the house is worthwhile. I think if a person or group of people, were able to market it, I'm not saying that they ever make a lot of money, but certainly would get use. But it takes a certain type of person to do that. Right now, we don't have anyone like that,
right.
so.
Yeah, before you go, thank you for all your time and your dedication.
Mhm.
You're a good example of those that quietly serve our community without asking for anything in return. So thank you.
Right now, I'm working on the Oak Valley Church. Trying to get that back in shape.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for your dedication to the community and providing all this information. I think clearly we want to get this done. It's just trying to figure out how to pay for it and the timeline in which to pay for it. It's not that, I don't think anyone disagrees that we want to get it done. Because we're too far in to not.
The other thing is, I don't know if many of you have been there.
But can I interject?
Hold on, Dan. Let me just let John finish and then I'll go to you.
I don't know if any of you guys have been there recently, but I think it would really be great to take a trip over there. I can show you around what's been done. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Sure, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
I might go visit Craig, but I could just do that instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested in,
Sometime I'd like to show you what we've done there.
I would welcome that. I'd be happy to join you on something like that. So thank you again.
Great.
Dan, you wanted to add something to add to John's comments?
Yeah, a couple of things. First off, and Matt can attest to this. We had gotten, and again, Matt or other smart people there can tell the name of a lady from the state who finally actually was able to give us some parameters around the replacement of that beam in the ballroom that John is talking about. That's been something we've been working on for 6-8 months. We finally have got that answer. Talking about pricing, I don't think anybody on the committee felt confident to actually try to go and get anybody to get any kind of estimates because no one knew if we were going to have any money to do anything with. There is a very small amount of money left. Matt can ascertain exactly what that money was actually set aside for, but quite literally that the work on that house has been dormant for a year because there really haven't been any funds to go to being able to complete anything in the house. The money that the big block of money that we just got was for parking up there because there's never been any kind of parking or driveway or anything to get up into that area. So Matt has been able to get pricing for that. But as for money really set aside and available to use to try to get that house completed, it's been very minimal at best. And again, other people there can probably
mentioned.
talk better.
I'm sorry, David.
Yeah.
You good?
No,
I'm sorry.
give you
So
far
John
better
mentioned
dollars.
it's 2 years. So, John, so it just in general, I mean, your opinion, the fact that it's been dormant for 2 years, are we exacerbating our problems? I'm assuming.
The front of the house
Okay.
I replaced all or a good part of the moldings in front. I put a coat of oil-based primer on. That was 2 years ago, at least 2 years. And it's been sitting ever since. A lot of on the clapboards need to be sanded, scrape sanded, caulked, and painted.
But cost could increase without action, right? Because it just will deteriorate.
Well, I
Maybe.
used cypress lumber for the molds. So they wouldn't rot. It's originally, this is another thing that, General Builders did. They just painted everything over, and 5 years later, it was totally rotted. And these were, a lot of them were very intricate molds. And so, anyway, they're cypress, they won't rot, but it does need to be attended.
So I have a couple of things I'm just thinking about, if I may. So I see the $50,000. I guess, Matt, originally $100,000 was attributed to the potential parking lot, and it looks like you could do it for 50 is what I'm reading. That,
So I can do the parking for 25.
are we negotiating? How about 20? Are we? Sorry.
What the 50 was, if it even was 50, I think it was 50, was the parking with a gravel drive with a couple extra gravel parking spaces. So the dedication of the 100,000 was for handicap accessible parking spaces.
Okay.
Right.
I can provide, I believe, a van space, accessible space, and 2 accessible spaces, and a paved drive to the main drive into the park for 25. The 50 would have been the non-ADA spaces on gravel with a driveway that drove right into the 2-bay garage and the foundation. As John said, the foundation would have been, I think I had it for about 16. I think that's the number I had. The barn is built by Country Carpenters. So the 50 would have gotten us the paved driveway, accessible parking spaces, gravel parking spaces, and a foundation for the barn. That's the 50.
Okay, so the question for Donna, you may not have the answer, and I didn't think of this when I was reading the material, so I apologize as I'm listening. So we got $100,000 approved from ARPA for a specific element of this project. Do we have the latitude to simply give more, to let them spend it in a different way?
Ran it by the town attorney.
Okay.
At the bar, and he confirmed that would be our path
Well,
to do the foundation.
Yeah, I actually, I don't know, maybe I was just dreaming because I've been doing that. Oh, I could have sworn we had the conversation of, so I was actually lumping the whole project in as one, but.
well, that's why I just don't remember, was it's very specific,
No.
and then do we need approval for anything else that we do? Can we just sort of put more money into Peter's house without each element of it getting approved because we didn't get it reviewed? I'm just asking, I don't know.
I believe your recollection is probably more accurate. I don't think we, according to Donna, we did not actually get approval to extend the project beyond the 88 parking spaces.
Okay. So then it gets me back to Keith's point, which was we have dollars that should we be, knowing that we can't finish this all with probably this, with one ARPA donation. Should we be thinking about those dollars dedicated to the foundational elements of the project? I'm sorry, use the word foundation, but like the house itself and to the things you're talking about, John, and because there's less money. I mean, there's more money than we originally allocated. There's still a bunch of money there, and so I just was having that thought. So it's a comment. It's not really sort of a. And so as I think about the motion, I'm just trying. I don't really have. I'm not comfortable allocating more money. It's not because I'm against the project. I'm just trying to better understand how we can best utilize the monies that we have. And should we be looking at it a little differently, relative? Because if it's not going to be open to the public immediately, couldn't the parking be dealt with through future CIP allocated dollars?
I mean,
As an idea,
I mean,
a good idea.
a whole bunch of thoughts just to follow up in this, again, this train of thought. So there have been functions there, right? They've used the lawn in the back of the building. You have functioning bathrooms, so you have access to that. So I think some of the thought was that the barn kind of enhances the ability to use that lawn for functional space.
Sure.
So it kind of, builds out what is the Peters house.
And
Experience.
historic properties has their regular monthly meetings.
Also code, has your annual, event there,
The Juneteenth event.
which is, the biggest event that has taken her, for 2 years. Very worthy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to think of like the prioritization of the expenditures. Is there a different way to think about it? Knowing that we don't, it's like any project, ask my wife, what do we need the house? We need a litany of things I can't buy 'em. I can't get them. So how do you continue to prioritize and reprioritize if you have limited funds? Should we think differently about it? And the answer may be no. This may be exactly right. But I just am sort of challenging myself to think at least about making the comment of, is there an opportunity to reprioritize some of these funds? And there may not be. We may be spot on with what we're putting money towards.
If I could further complicate
Yeah.
things for you.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
So number one, take a step back. The dog park.
Yeah.
We thought we had a very sound location. There's no guarantee that despite my pleading, I'm going to be able to work it through planning and zoning commission for its site.
Okay.
So just wanted to float that. I will continue to strive to do that in the very near term, however. So additionally, I was thinking about, Commissioner Thiele's thoughts on adding new items that are on the list. I want to emphasize the complexity of, if they are improvement projects, the complexity at this stage of the game in adding new projects that are going to need to be designed, vetted, and then bid, and then executed in the timeline that we have. So depending on what they are, and I don't know what that's on the list, that could be very challenging.
So I'm literally talking about 3D printers and buying
You're
furniture.
talking about, talking about redoing
I'm
a
not
building.
talking
Yeah,
about
Okay.
new designed projects.
And I don't, okay, I thought you said something about the senior center, so I wasn't sure if
The
those were.
senior center put in a request for furniture, which was approved by the town attorney, as the use of our. funds.
Okay, I plead ignorance, if that's okay, so,
I appreciate you bringing up the dog park, but,
yeah.
yeah, I gotta hear, I have personally zero interest in that coming off the list.
Yep.
Zero interest.
Agreed.
I'm just going on record saying, I know the hands are getting raised and some
And
objections are being raised that,
made.
frankly, I don't understand the objections that are being raised right now. So I need a lot more information.
So, then my only other thought here is, we could, I guess I would need direction from you. So there was a commitment of 100,000 for the paved area. If it's scaled back, then that's fine, that's back in your hands. If there is a thought of, I guess if the thought was to go to the Peters house, I kind of need to know like how much of a commitment I need to plan for, because I do need to execute a contract before the end of the year. So I need to, if it's not going to be all of the improvements proposed, I got to try to figure out what are going to be the ones that we have, we can move forward. And John's right, we did get finally, this is another challenge of this whole thing, is trying to get these contractors and these design consultants to give you information in a timely manner, and that are, like actually what you asked for in the first place. It's very difficult, but we did finally get something back from our structural engineer for the two kind of integral improvements at the Peters house on the building itself. So at least we have that information that I can use to get some feedback in terms of numbers on. So that just came in, what, Monday or something like that?
Well, one thing I mentioned, I think Beth is on the board of Chippo. And I think she indicated to you that she might be able to find some money from Chippo also.
Yeah, so, in an ideal world, if I was to be able to sign a contract, maybe I could use that as leverage, like I mentioned, those historic preservation grants are 50 match grants. It's possible, and I could try. But, again, this is.
But we're likely out of time.
Coming
We're
down
likely
to-
to ARPA. We're out of time for ARPA.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
I don't know how we're gonna get all contracts and all these items and align with the ARPA timeline. I don't see it.
So I guess my question would be for us to think about. So if you are telling us you could do original project that we gave you $100,000 for was for the handicapped parking, or the ADA parking, excuse me. And so you're saying you could get that done for 25,000. So then that leaves you with 75,000. And couldn't we then just give you direction based on this list to focus on the house solely? Maybe we leave the barn out. Is that something we could do?
I mean, again, I must have all this entire time been misinterpreting, because like when I see on the list here that it says ADA and structural, I thought that structural meant
Yeah.
inside the house.
Mm.
I didn't realize, was that word structural meaning
I do.
other structures?
I do believe during the process, you did approve some of that 100,000 to be used for in the house.
Right, because I believe we heard quite a while ago about the beam.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what I thought the structural
The
thing
other
was.
important thing is you always can't.
Sure.
The other important thing is the front porch area, which gives you a durable entrance to the house. You know, that we've talked about putting a path on the road. This main parking is across the street.
Mhm.
And using the front porch as an entrance right now, it's unusable. So I would love it if you guys would come over and see what we're.
And the front porch renovation is the biggest,
Right.
the front porch renovation is the biggest line item of your list,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct, yeah,
Mhm.
and that may be low. I did get one bid from a friend of mine, who said 40. So I think it can be done for much less, but we still have to go over the plans on that. I think that was a very high bid. So.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to,
Okay.
but again, this is just me. I'm not the town lawyer speaking. But my interpretation of what we have already assigned is like, get the ADA and parking done. That's obvious because it says ADA,
Right.
but that word structural to me throughout this entire process, since I've been on the board, means structural improvements within the house itself.
Right.
So I would say, take whatever's left of that 100 and like get it done.
So Don, you don't think we have to say, now we want 20,000 for the front porch within the 100? We don't have to go back to the town attorney.
I
Okay.
do not
Okay.
believe so. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that we got his opinion that anything we
Anything
did over there
affiliated with,
was
okay.
covered.
Okay, so the 100,000 remains,
Yeah.
right? So that doesn't change. And however it can be best used, we'll turn it over to the experts to sort of do that.
Mhm.
But the motion is asking for more money associated with all these items.
And I would say, I mean, back to my original concern is focusing on that comment from the public that kind of put me, back on my heels is like, I want to get that, we have the 100 grand available, like full speed ahead on that for house related stuff. And I know sometimes we can go out to contractors and say, look, can we get a bid that is good until December 20th,
Mm.
right? And then if we're looking at our December meeting and saying the dollar amount is that we have left over is X,
Mhm.
and this contract is less than X, the number is good until December 20th. I mean, there's plenty of contractors out there that will give you a quote that's good until such and such date. So I would kind of have those lined up, because that gives us the best opportunity for, okay, here we are, we have this dollar amount left. And even if we have to maybe, get some wiggle room, if it's off by a few dollars here or there, we can figure it out. But if we don't have a contract ready to be signed, then the chances are zero.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I would put it forth. If I was going out to bid, I would ask the companies to put forth bids that are good until, that the numbers are good until 12, 20,
Sure.
whatever date they want to throw out there, that gives us a chance to act on it and sign it right before the end of the year.
So John, of these 24 items, I think it was 24 items. I'm just thinking along those lines, Keith. I'm thinking, well, could we go get estimates for the the most important things and the most expensive things. Like you think it's 20, someone said 40, maybe we should get it exact, that in writing, that it's 32,000, so we know. So is it possible to get, to your point, estimates on the 2 or 3 big ticket items that are the most important for you, representing the folks that are prioritizing the next steps? And then maybe to Keith's point, all of a sudden it gets close to the end and we need to throw in some money for repaired broken glass, some of your smaller items. Probably pretty easy to just in November say, okay, here's an extra $5,000 to take care of those 10 items or something like that. Is that reasonable to focus estimates on a few of the larger items that are most important, or is that not practical?
There's 75,000 left in the line item, so I mean, I would think,
Well, I mean, the 75,000, you guys should definitely
yeah,
spend,
I mean.
because it's
put it-
already
yeah,
allocated.
It's already there,
Like,
so.
sign that
So
away.
prioritize
Yeah.
and bring us.
But,
what you got.
but beyond the 75, if you still see a need out there, see,
Because this is
See what
143,
we
right?
can
This is
have available.
143 is the total.
right.
So
So,
if it's truly 75, we still have a gap. But
75, and then there's some in CIP.
we have 37 in CIP, so now we're over 100. So we're starting to get a little closer.
Yeah.
But you're right about the contract. We don't have the contracts. We can't do anything yet. Go ahead.
A lot of this stuff is going to take time too. Yeah. So it wouldn't be done, it's not like all.
You got a year.
no,
You gotta-
the work,
end of
the
next
work
year.
doesn't have to be done until next year.
End of next year.
It just has to
Yeah.
be signed this year.
This year.
So if someone can't do it by the end of next year, that would be a deal breaker. If they said, hey, because I understand, it doesn't matter the business I was in, but I understand, hiring artists and contractors. And sometimes it could be a year and a half for them to do hand hewn beams or something like. I mean, it's an artist and it's not a regular contractor. So someone could say, I can redo all those items, but it's going to take me 14 months. And okay, that may be a deal breaker. So that's good to understand, because we don't really know that it could be realistic that some of this more specialized work could take a significant amount of time.
Right.
Okay, so I think we're good to sort of try to wrap this up, at least for today. Obviously, this is something that we'll continue to talk about. So you're clear on the 100,000 and the art. We're clear on that. Everyone's comfortable with that?
Mhm.
I heard that if folks are continuing to be, or the board is continuing to be interested in how we can support this. But I'm not hearing that we're in a position today of allocating more money today out of art.
No.
But we're open to it, but not today.
No.
That's what I'm hearing. Now, that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm not
Well,
seeing your
I
face.
mean-
So you're on the line.
Right, but I mean, even today, we still don't have an exact number, because again,
Right.
these are not official quotes.
Mhm.
So my recommendation going forward is to get quotes and sign up to 100,000 for everything. And then get quotes beyond that. And as soon as we have those quotes in hand, then we sign up until.
See what the
we run
gaps
out of
really
money.
are and what the
Right.
gaps really are.
And we go where we go. But,
Oh, don't forget, we have the 37,000 in CIP, so we have the 75 plus the 37,000 in
Right.
CIP that's out.
well, yeah, so the 37 can be used as well.
Right, so now we're
Just whatever.
100 on that alone.
Right.
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 Okay.
Go ahead, Dan.
If I may, was some of that 30, is that CIP money, was that set aside for painting? Is that the money that you're talking about? Because there's money put in for the
Yes,
painting
yes,
of that
part of it's
structure.
paint. Yeah.
So
Goes out.
that can't change. That was set for painting. So that's locked away for painting. So that money really cannot be used for other construction purposes. So,
Yeah, but
So,
if you
I
look
would
at some of the
strongly
items on there, painting is listed.
well,
We do have
siding
painting,
painting, but-
yeah, you've got a list of it. There is painting in the list of 20 things. There is some painting things.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not a contractor. But there's
It
some
might
painting.
not be $30,000 worth of painting, but.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
there's-
painting is only ridiculously expensive. I would strongly,
Everything's ridiculously expensive.
well, a couple things. A, is there any way that the Hebron Historical Commission could get a Friends of the Peters House established, and they could also help to raise funds? So that would be one possibility to help stretch the budget. But the other thing I would strongly recommend, don't just stop at the 100,000. Get everything that house needs to get done. Get estimates for it all. You could have it broken down you know, like the beam, the this, the that, but get all the estimates. That way, as a board, you could take a look at all of the numbers and, you know, some things may or may not get done. Some things may have to be done just so that, you know, part B could be done. If you don't do A, you can't do B. But I would get the entire balance of that project, get estimates for everything, once and for all, so we can try to get this thing put to bed.
John, you want to close out with anything? I mean, yeah, I mean, you're welcome to finish up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not realistically sure we can get estimates on everything, but we can get
Yeah.
estimates on.
The big ticket items, right? Those are
Yeah.
the things that.
As much as you can.
Much
I-
better.
As I recall, this is, 2 years ago. Mike put in a request for painting. And it was gonna be two sides, the front and the, side with the big oak tree. And, I think that, was given, I think it was 22,000.
21,900.
Yeah, okay. And that was from, the quote was from, that's a big company. They didn't want to do any sanding on the front, which, you know, you really have to do because of the lead issue. And I just worked on a house with Paul Fribble, and we replaced all the clapboards, but all the window frames, everything, you know, using a vacuum. It's a DA sander hooked up to a vacuum, you know, and it takes a lot more labor to do that. You know, but you get rid of the lead list, and it works. You know, and you come out with a much better product.
Yeah.
But anyway, CertaPro gave them a bid. They didn't want to do any sanding. I wouldn't hire them. Period. You know, and then right now we only need to do the front because the adjacent side they were going to quote on has to be ripped apart, replace the beam. So there's no sense in doing anything. And on that, the clapboards are not in bad shape anyway. And there's some peeling, but it's not terrible. But you don't want to do that until the beams have been repaired. So,
Okay.
the other issue in repairing that, you never know what you're going to get into when you take it apart.
That's
And,
anyhow.
Welcome to
Anyhow.
anyhow.
Yeah.
it's powder posts, you know, problems. Windows above leaking, you know, that gets down in there and then that's a powder post, you know. So anyway,
Well, thank you. And thank you, again, thank you for all the work you've done behind the scenes and on this project for so many years and for coming down tonight to provide the additional context.
I just hope you guys will come over and take a look.
All right, we'll do that. We're gonna wait till, there's no way I'm doing it without Dan. So when he comes back, I'll let him set that up.
Yeah,
'Cause,
that'd be great.
we're not doing it without you, Dan.
Well, I've been
So,
there.
I know, but I think you can be like a tour guide.
Yeah.
Be my
Well,
tour guide.
I would really hope that before we leave tonight, the marching orders that we try to get these estimates. Because if,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and that there's a desire to get the project done, because people aren't going to put in estimates if there's no chance of them being acted upon. So I would at least like to have some sort of a commitment from the board that they're seriously going to consider, you know, whatever funding to try to get this project completed.
I think there's consensus to keep this on the agenda. So comfortable with next steps, and we covered a lot. Matt, look at you.
Yep.
Comfortable.
Yep.
And we can obviously
just to be
follow up.
clear.
Yeah.
Just in the context of other projects, I don't come back asking for the 20, whatever it is for the foundation for a bar. Because that, you know, it's been a pending request by the Historic Properties Commission, so I just want to be clear about that.
Maybe not at this time.
It sounds like we need to focus on the other item.
Yeah,
I
we
think
need
the
to focus
foundation.
on the
If-
house.
If we find that the dollar amounts we have available covers the house, then by all means, get a quote for additional stuff and we'll see what's left over.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a lot of these projects that are not going to be ready to go. Or that may come in. I know the skate park's not gonna come in under, but all right.
It might.
But
Hey, fingers.
Yeah.
But there are other projects that will come in under, and all of that will aggregate up.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you have a
If you're ready.
quote for something, then whoever has a quote ready to sign is gonna get first preference
Right.
come November, December. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at.
Right, so if you want to
So-
take the time to be prepared for that, that's
Mhm.
fine. I think hopefully I'm providing clarity here in the sense that we want the focus to be on finishing the project, not adding another element to the project.
Mhm.
At least as the next sort of focus, the next several weeks.
But yeah, if there is a push for other items, and that includes you for other items, it includes the senior center for other items,
Mhm.
it includes anybody who wants a piece of the pie. Whoever has quotes, when we're wrapping up the loose ends and counting the nickels and dimes,
Again,
they're the ones who get the money.
And I think I would add to that, Donna, 2 quick points. If there are items that are outstanding in terms of town attorney approval, I'd like responses to that by the next October meeting, because there's still an item on there that requires town attorney approval.
Which I,
It's the funding for the community theater.
Oh,
we got that.
It's not in the packet.
Okay.
So maybe we could discuss that at the next meeting. It's
Yeah.
not urgent because it's getting late, but I'd
Hey.
like that in the packet
Because
for
he
next
did
meeting.
that.
Totally fine, but
Okay.
it needed to be in the
okay,
packet.
yeah, okay. we can-
The other item is that, you know, for projects that have been approved, we need quotes, I think, from all of it, because it just looks like for the projects that have been approved that we have not approved, they're just general dollar amounts, like 25,000 for appliances, et cetera.
The page that Donna put thank you,
Yeah, thank you
Donna,
for
I
doing
appreciate
that.
it.
Yeah, you
The
ordered it.
page that she split into under contract and not yet under contract. Basically, and that's why I say, get a quote,
Yeah.
because in our November meeting, anything that's below that line,
Mhm.
like, look, if you're ready to sign, it's first come, first serve.
Yeah.
And if you're below the line, you're not getting served.
There'll be opportunities for others.
So that's what I'm
Yes,
saying. If
right.
there are
right.
projects
Next month,
that,
we're out of time.
Right.
yeah,
Next month
if
is-
the projects have been approved by town attorney, they're awaiting our approval and they're able to bring us quotes, you know, like, it's open to everybody can.
Right.
Bring us quotes for those projects that have town attorney approval, awaiting our approval, and then we go from.
All right, so just to sort of summarize, Matt, you're good. Thank you again, John, and for coming down and all the work that you're doing. We appreciate that. I'm gonna, and Dan, I think clearly, I hope you heard Peter's House is on the table for continued discussion, because we're all committed to trying to figure out how to make this happen. I'm gonna ask that second motion be not be acted on tonight. We don't have enough information to act on that, so we'll revisit that proposed motion number 2, possibly at a later meeting, and suggest that we move on.
Mhm.
Unless someone vehemently disagrees.
Try to
Uh-huh.
get pricing to get quotes
Yeah.
for that house, because if it doesn't happen, then who knows the next, available is.
So we need-
And
Right,
had people wanting to do things in that house, but without any kind of funds for 2 years now. Or any kind of meaningful funds, and or that beam, which we finally took months, but that lady from SHPO finally showed up, and then finally responded. That took another 3 months to get her to respond on the information that she had gleaned from coming out and looking at the beam. So, okay, so just
yep, good. No, I appreciate it. I think we're in a good spot. Yeah, we'll keep talking about this for sure. So we'll move on. So thank you guys for coming down, and you're welcome to stay. Come on. Nope, where are you going?
It's been a long day.
My God.
I was in California this morning. Yes, I fully understand the length of the day. Yeah, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you again, John, for coming down.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so that moves, thank you for your indulgence. I know it was a long section, but it was an important one, obviously, a lot of information and an important project to continue to get everyone's hands around here. So that moves to the 7B, which is Department of Public Works Action Committee update, which I will take. A lot of work going on there, and probably the thing that's most important that hopefully you'll see as the next step, which is likely correlated to 7C, is we're getting a lot of misinformation that's being put out in the public regarding some of the work that's been done and some of the recommendations that have been made to be considered that needs to be corrected. And so we're going to continue to think about launching our effective communication strategy, continue to do what we're doing now, and obviously then look for the Board of Selectmen to support that communication too, as we're always trying to do, and everything that we do is to drive people to the facts. We welcome people to comment and obviously comment on their concerns or some things they're worried about, but at the end of the day, our job is to get them to focus on the facts so they can then inform themselves, especially when they have legitimate concerns. And so that's what I want to say on that, even though there's clearly a ton of work being done behind the scenes, but the focus is really on communication. So I'm going to move to that 7C, which is the Board of Selectmen communication strategy.
Okay.
And so I'm going to look to Tiffany first. We thank you to Donna, Andy, to bring this to our town attorney, and obviously thank you to Tiffany for all the work that she did to put this together. We did get good feedback from the town attorney. So I just turn it to you first for comments.
First off, it's always fun to put communication strategies through legal review.
Yes,
I
it
have to
is.
do that quite a bit. in my time.
So
And it's always
you're not
fun.
unaccustomed to the red line.
I am not accustomed to it. I've read through and I would like some time to just sit with it and fully digest, just because some of the marked up document didn't come through on email when I would have the time to look at it. At a glance, I'm not unopposed to these changes. I just,
We want some more time.
if that would be okay, I would be ready to kind of say, here you go, it's ready for final approval at our next meeting. I just kind of want to sit with it and I want to clean it up a little bit and make sure it's.
I don't want to rush, and obviously you spent the time putting it together, and so let's not rush. So
I don't disagree with everything. I just
Okay.
want to read it and
No, that's fine.
understand. Yeah.
So unless the board disagrees, we're going to table this, keep this on as old business. Unless the board disagrees, and let Tiffany finish her
Thank
review so she can bring forward her final recommendations, and then we'll have a discussion to implement at the next meeting.
Yep.
Am I comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. That moves us to 7D, which is any other old business. Donna, from the town, is there any other old business which bring for the board? Dan, any other old business that's not listed that you wish to bring before us as the board?
No.
So,
That was good because I was interested in knowing how the legal opinion talking about the new federal communications laws, how that was going to affect. So I'm glad this is getting put off. So thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
good, Keith, you had some?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right, so, you're good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, thank you. So that moves us to 8A, which is award the bid for the pickleball courts at St. Peter's Field. I thought we already did that.
No, this is to
No, we
award the
moved.
bid.
Oh,
Yeah, we moved
Oh.
money. This is finalizing.
I thought we finalized it. So there you go.
No, we did the financial
Transfer.
one, we just need to award the bid.
Okay, okay. No, I got that wrong, but I'm like, I thought we were past that. I thought
No,
we were
we're
on to
good.
just, we want more money, probably.
Well, yes, they wanted more money and now we are motioning to spend it.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Motion. Can you, move us forward, please?
I move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen award the bid for the construction of the pickleball courts at St. Peter's Field to Inding Tennis, LLC of Branford, Connecticut, in the amount of $115,775, and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, to sign any necessary contract documents.
Thank you for reading that. Is there any discussion? Mr. Larson?
No, no discussion. Aye on the motion.
Hey, I gotta do my speech first, all right? But I'll hold that.
You have to speak to that.
I do have a speech every time. I say the same.
I
thing.
love that speech.
You're gonna look back later in life and
I was
say, you
just
know what?
gonna
that
say
was
my
good.
husband is gonna be delighted.
Okay.
so.
So, okay, any discussion from the other members of the board? Okay,
Ready.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay, or if you wish to abstain, please note that as well. Mr. Larson, have you changed your mind?
No, yeah, I'm not going to
Dan
say
Larson,
that
Dan-
N-word. Aye, yes.
Okay. Dan Larson, aye. Thank you. Keith?
Keith Pettit, aye.
Thank you. Tiffany?
Tiffany Tealy, aye.
Thank you. Peter Casper, aye. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. Now we move to 8B, we moved 8B, excuse me, which is our draft agenda for October 24th meeting. So as a reminder, again, if anyone's listening for the first time, please provide your feedback to town manager's office and or to me if appropriate, and we can finalize anything for the next meeting, which is scheduled for October 24th.
Mhm.
Any other new business to bring before the board? No. Dan, any new business that isn't counted? Okay, all right. That'll move us to our consent agenda, which is number 9 on the agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine in nature, which the board may not need to discuss individually, may be voted on as a group. Any board member who wishes to discuss a particular item in this section may request the chair to remove it for later discussion and a separate vote if necessary. We have the approval of the minutes of September 19th, 2024, all boards meeting, and our September 26th regular meeting. And tax refunds are not,
No tax.
we don't have those listed, okay? So we have the 2 agendas. Is everyone comfortable that we, do you want to separate either of those 2 for changes?
No.
Dan?
No,
All right, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Or if you wish to abstain, please note that as well. Dan?
Dan Larson, aye.
Dan?
Keith Pettit, aye.
Keith, Tiffany?
Tiffany Tealy, aye.
Tiffany, Peter Casper, aye. That's unanimously. Moves to liaison reports, AHM Youth Services. No meetings that I attended or need to attend, so I have no update there. Tiffany, that moves us to the Board of Education.
They don't meet until next week.
Thank you so much. Mr. Larson, anything from the Board of Finance?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
And acquisition, Mr. Pettit.
Land acquisition was canceled for October, but I believe they have one. The next one is December.
And Claudia's not present, so there'll be no RAM Board of Ed liaison update. That moves us to item number 11, which is our public comment section. Again, if, I won't read the section, but 3 minutes, if anyone wishes to participate in public comment, anyone from our audience who's still here? No, okay. Donna, anyone on the line that wishes? Okay, that moves us to item 12.
Move that we adjourn the Hebron Board of Selectmen's meeting at 8:26 p.m.
6 seconds if needed. Thank you very much. Thank you to those that attended online. Thank you for coming down and joining us in person. I appreciate it. And thank you, Donna, for stepping in so valiantly for Andy in his absence, and obviously our board's best wishes for a speedy recovery for Andy. And the meeting is adjourned, and good evening to all.